good to see you. All you little people. And you big people, too. Antari Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Nice to see you. Prabhupada Priya Devidasi. Hare Krishna. For those of you who are listening in, and for some of you who are kind of new, my name is Rupa Nagadas. I'm a disciple of His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, grand disciple of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. I'm very happy to be with you. Those of you who are listening in online, I'm very pleased to know that you're there. And we hope that somehow or other our spiritual master will speak to us today and give us something worth saying. Invocation to the Supreme Lord. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Jai Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Nitai Gaur Premananda. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Yasan Tato Jayamudera Nasta Presa Bandreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavat Yuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Today we're going to continue our reading in the fourth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 25, and we'll be reading text number I think it's 25. Prabhupada Priya Devi, you did? You did 25 to 44? Okay, so I'm doing 45 through 62. If that's all right with you. Gokulananda Prabhu. Hare Krishna. $45 through $62. I'm sorry? Focus on 55. What if I choose to do otherwise? Okay, we'll begin with text number 45, correct? And let's see, I think we're doing all the translations, right? We do translations first all the way through and then come back. Okay, I'm new at this, you know. This is the first time I've ever given a Bhagavatam class. So, text number 45, Prabhupada Priya Devidasi, would you please read a few translations?
Of the 9 gates in that city, 7 were on the surface and 2 were subterranean. A total of 9 doors were constructed, and these led to different places. All the gates were used by the city's governor.
Okay, would you please give us a brief overview of what we're reading right now?
So this appears...
Since you gave class, was it yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So now it's going into a description of the city of 9 gates, which is figuratively representing the body.
And you said that this is an allegory. Would you tell a little bit about the allegory? Who is speaking and who is being spoken to?
Okay, so Narada Muni is speaking to Maharaj Prachinabarhishat, who is a materialistic king, and Narada Muni is very mercifully, indirectly instructing him to stop his materialistic activities.
Okay. So even kings have to be advised by someone who is in knowledge. What to speak of people like us. We're hardly Raj Rishis. Okay, please read on.
My dear king, of the 9 doors, 5 led toward the eastern side, 1 led toward the northern side, 1 led toward the southern side, and 2 led towards the western side. I shall try to give the names of these different doors.
Go ahead.
The 2 gates named Kadyota and Avirmukhi were situated facing the eastern side, but they were constructed in one place. Through those 2 gates, the king used to go to the city of Vibrajita, accompanied by a friend whose name was Dyuman.
Okay, now there's significance to these names, and Prabhupada goes into them in the purports. So the 2 names, Kadyota and Avirmukhi, mean glowworm and torchlight. This indicates that of the 2 eyes, the left eye is less powerful in its ability to see. And he goes on. So if you have an interest in that topic, then I would hope that you'll go through and read the purports. We're accustomed to brevity right now, so we'll go on. Text number 48, please, Prabhupada Priya Devi.
Maybe it's helpful to mention that these 9 gates are the different poles of the body: the eyes, ears, nose, mouth, anus, genital. Okay. Similarly, in the east, there were 2 sets of gates named Nalini and Nalini, and these were also constructed in one place. Through these gates, the king, accompanied by a friend named Avaduta, used to go to the city of Saurabha.
Okay. And if you look just right down below in the purport, Prabhupada says Nalini and Nalini are the pipes of the nostrils through which one inhales and exhales, enjoying the aroma of sense pleasure. Okay. All right, please, one more.
The fifth gate, situated on the eastern side, was named Mukya, or the chief. Through this gate, accompanied by his friends named Rasagya and Vipana, he used to visit two places named Bahudana and Apana.
Okay. Our eating is done with the friend Rasagya, the tongue, which can taste so many different kinds of foods. What else? What else is another engagement of the tongue? Speaking. Vibrating. Speaking. Hopefully vibrating with meaning. Okay? And, okay. Manjari Gopika Devi, can you read the next several translations, please?
The southern gate of the city was known as Prithu, or Pitru, and through that gate King Paranjana used to visit the city named Dakshin Panchala, accompanied by his friend Shrutadara.
Go on.
On the northern side was the gate named Devahu. Through that gate, King Paranjana used to go with his friend Srutara to the place known as Uttara Panchala. On the western side was a gate named Asuri. Through that gate, King Paranjana used to go to the city of Gramaka, accompanied by his friend Durmada.
Okay, now all of these gates of the city and other characteristics of the city are being used by Narada Muni is speaking, right? I thought that was you. Oh, also Narada Muni is speaking in the background. And he is trying to give Prachini Barhishat. Did I say that correctly? Gokulananda Prabhu? Prachini Barhishat. That's quite a name. I like that. So Narada Muni is trying to awaken the king by giving him an allegorical story. And each part of it has significance regarding the senses, the five senses. And then also the five working senses. Okay, go on, please.
Another gate on the western side was known as Nirti. Paranjana used to go through this gate to the place known as Vaishasa, accompanied by his friend Lubdaka.
Okay, all of these names have some idea. And notice that Prabhupada says, first statement in the purport, this references to the rectum. All right, so that's one of the gates, one of the 9 gates of the body. I guess perhaps that's one of the subterranean gates that he mentions early on. Okay, next.
Of the many inhabitants of this city, there are 2 persons named Nirvak and Peshaskrit. Although King Paranjana was the ruler of citizens who possessed eyes, he unfortunately used to associate.
We're being technologically challenged here, everybody, so please hang in there. We'll see what we can do with another microphone or with batteries for this one. Hold on, please. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Hare. We're back in business.
Although King Paranjana was the ruler of citizens who possessed eyes, he unfortunately used to associate with these blind men. Accompanied by them, he used to go here and there to perform various activities.
Okay, read on, please.
Sometimes he used to go to his private home with one of his chief servants, the Mind, who was named Vishuchina. At that time, illusion, satisfaction, and happiness used to be produced from his wife and children.
Used to be produced. at that time, illusion, satisfaction, and happiness used to be produced from his wife and children. Interesting, that word used. Sometimes it's pronounced used, and sometimes it's pronounced used. Used to be produced from the wife and children means that sometime in the past, those three characteristics, illusion, satisfaction, happiness, were at one time produced from his wife and children. Okay, please read on.
Being thus entangled in different types of mental concoction and engaged in fruitive activities, King Puranjana came completely under the control of material intelligence and was thus cheated. Indeed, he used to fulfill all the desires of his wife, the queen.
The queen. And what character is the queen representing here? Does anybody remember? Or have we gone through that yet? What is it? Is it the mind or the intelligence? Is it the intelligence?
He already mentioned the mind. He already mentioned the mind, so I think
The intelligence. Okay. All right. Again, if you want to go into a little more depth in your understanding of this chapter, I would encourage you to read the purports. Quite interesting. Okay, men. Who's going to read? Who wants to read first? Ajit Prabhu.
When the queen drank liquor, King Puranjana also engaged in drinking. When the queen dined, he used to dine with her.
Hold that mic up closer, please.
And when she chewed, King Puranjana used to chew along with her. When the queen sang, he also sang. Similarly, when the queen cried, he also cried. And when the queen laughed, he also laughed. When the queen talked loosely, he also talked loosely. And when the queen walked, the king walked behind her. When the queen would stand still, the king would also stand still. And when the queen would lie down in bed, he would also follow and lie down with her. When the queen sat, he would also sit. And when the queen heard something, he would follow her to hear the same thing. When the queen saw something, the king would also look at it. And when the queen smelled something, the king would follow her to smell the same thing. When the queen touched something, the king would also touch it. And when the dear queen was lamenting, the poor king also had to follow her in lamentation. In the same way, when the queen felt enjoyment, he also enjoyed. And when the queen was satisfied, the king also felt satisfaction.
Ajit Prabhu, would you please read the first paragraph of the purport to that text? Is that available?
Yeah, just going to take me a second
Okay.
to get there. Okay, the mind is the place where the self is situated, and the mind is conducted by the intelligence. The living entity situated within the heart follows the intelligence. The intelligence is herein depicted as the queen,
There we go.
and the soul, under mental control, follows the material intelligence just as the king follows his wife. The conclusion is that material intelligence is the cause of bondage for the living entity. The point is that one has to take the spiritual intelligence to come out of this entanglement.
So we have to have intelligence. The intelligence is there in all of living entities, especially those with a human form. What is the job of the intelligence, please? Dustin, do you know the answer to that? The intelligence is to control what?
Mind.
The mind. Control the mind. Now, sometimes the mind is very overbearing, and what is the function? What is the purpose of the mind? I mean, what is the mind supposed to control? The what? The senses, yes. I'm having to get help here because of the hearing thing. So yes, the mind is supposed to control the senses, but actually the mind, we find, facilitates the senses. And unless the mind has something to control it, that's its primary function as we understand it. The mind's function is to facilitate. Means if you're feeling a little bit hungry and there's a dispensing machine close around, then your mind says, go over there. That's a way to satisfy your appetite. Just stick a buck in there, and you get a candy bar or something. Okay, so in order for us to gain some control of our senses, we need to gain control of the mind, do we not? And what part of us, of our being, is controlling the mind? The intelligence. And if the intelligence is weak, it will simply facilitate the mind. The mind is wondering, where can I get something to satisfy my sense of taste? It's making demands. And so where can I find something? And the intelligence says, well, usually in the lobby of this building, there are machines available to get something to eat. Or your intelligence will say, there's only one restaurant in town, as far as we know, that offers food that has been prepared for and has been prepared for the Supreme Lord by devotees of the Lord. And so the intelligence says to the mind, you got to get to Kalachanji's. That's where you're going to get your taste buds satisfied, and you're also going to do something good for you, the person who is listening to all of these conversations between the intelligence and the mind and the senses. All right, let's go on. One of the other men, please read text number 62.
In this way, King Puranjana was captivated by his nice wife and was thus cheated. Indeed, he became cheated in his whole existence in the material world. Even against that poor, foolish king's desire, he remained under the control of his wife, just like a pet animal that dances according to the order of its master.
Does it sound like the king of the world who is so controlled by his wife? The king who controls armies across the globe, perhaps, is now under the control of his wife, because his wife provides satisfaction to all of his senses. And of course, his intelligence doesn't seem to be strong enough to overcome. Of course, this is allegorical. This is a make-believe king. But nonetheless, Narada Muni is using it to illustrate how the human being, in particular in a man's body, can be controlled by the one who provides satisfaction to all of his senses. And generally speaking, in a decent society, that is the wife. Okay, now that's the end of chapter 25. And we're supposed to go back and read text 55. But we're not going to do that. I'm going to divert a little bit from the plan. I want to read this last text, and I want to go through the purport of this last text, or at least part of the purport. So can we recite these things word for word? Recite the text. I'll speak and then you repeat, please. Vipralabdo Mahishyavan Sarva Prakriti Vanchita Nechan Anakaroti Agya Klaibyat Krida Mrigo Yata Vipralabdho Mahisya Yaivan Vipralabdho Mahisya Yaivan Sarva prakriti vanchita nechan anukarotyangya. I'll stop right there just for a moment. Notice that that second word, anukaroti, ends with a Y. So when that's the case, in order to get the meter correct, we pronounce the next syllable or the next vowel in the last word. Nechan anukarotyagya Klaibyat krida mrigo yata. Someone else chant. Vipralabdhu mahishaivam sarva prakriti vanchita nechananu karotyagya. Someone else. Vipralabdhu mahishaivam sarva prakriti vanchaka nechan anukarotyagya klaivyat krida mrigo yata. More. Vipralabdho mahishaivam sarva prakriti vanchita nechan anukarotyagya klaivyat krida mrigo yata. One more person. Vipralabdho mahishaivam sarva prakriti vanchita nechan anukarotyagya klaivyat krida mrigo yata. Word for word translations. Vipralabdha, captivated. Mahisya, by the queen. Evam, thus. Sarva, all. Prakriti, existence. Vanchita, being cheated. Na ichan, without desiring. Anukaroti, used to follow and imitate. Agya, the foolish king. Klaibyat, by force. Krida mriga, a pet animal. Yatha, just like. So, let's see. Let's read that translation one more time. Who's got the microphone? Get one of you gentlemen. Ajit, Prabhu.
In this way, King Puranjana was captivated by his nice wife and was thus cheated. Indeed, he became cheated in his whole existence in the material world. Even against that poor, foolish king's desire, he remained under the control of his wife, just like a pet animal that dances according to the order of its spiritual master. Or just master, sorry.
Okay. Antare Prabhu, would you kindly read the first paragraph of that purport?
Yes, sir. Thank you. The word vipralabdha is very significant in this verse. Vi means specifically, and pralabdha means obtained. Just to satisfy his desires, the king got the queen, and thus he became cheated by material existence. Although he was not willing to do so, he remained a pet animal under the control of material intelligence. Just as a pet monkey dances according to the desires of its master, the king danced according to the desires of the queen. In Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 5, Text 2, it is said, Mahat Sivam Dvaram Ahur Vimukte. If one associates with a saintly person, a devotee, one's path of liberation becomes clear. But if
Okay. I would like, thank you very much. That was good reading. Ishwari Kumari Devi, can you please read the second paragraph? Let's do the second and third paragraphs, please.
On the whole, for the spiritual advancement, one must give up the company of women. This is what is meant by the order of sannyas, the renounced order. Before taking sannyas or completely renouncing the material world, one has to practice avoiding illicit sex. Sex life, licit or illicit, is practically the same. But through illicit sex, one becomes more and more captivated. By regulating one's sex life, there is a chance that one may eventually be able to renounce sex or renounce the association of women. If this can be done, advancement in a spiritual life comes very easily.
Okay, stop right there. And so he's saying that illicit and illicit sex are practically the same, but through illicit sex, one becomes more and more captivated. Now, by regulating, so how does one regulate his sex life?
To beget children?
By producing children. By producing children. And since our children become all-consuming of our time, our energy, and our money, the more children we have, then the more, there's going to be regulation. We would hope, anyhow. I know some people with as many as 10 children, devotee. I know a devotee with as many as 10 children. And very nice person. And his mother is exemplary. Urmila Devi. Everybody familiar with Urmila? Yes. Very, very nice lady. Okay, would you read the second paragraph?
Yes.
Third paragraph.
How one becomes captivated by the association of one's dear wife is explained in this chapter by Narad Muni. Attraction for one's wife means attraction for the material qualities. One who is attracted by material quality of darkness is in the lowest stage of life, whereas one who is attracted by the material quality of goodness is in a better position.
All right, now let's stop there just for a moment. So it's better to be attracted by the mode of goodness, but there's a problem with the mode of goodness, and what is that? Anybody?
This is material.
It's also material.
Yes.
And what's the problem with that? I mean, what's the problem with doing as I do and sometimes listening to classical music? What is wrong with
So
it?
we would be bound to material world, and we have to come back and we would have that taste of, we would not transcend the material world.
Okay, it does not transcend. So if you get too comfortable in this material world, if your life is going along really smoothly, and you're surrounded by a nice wife and nice children, your parents are very favorable to your spouse, and that helps too, doesn't it? When your parents are favorable toward your spouse. Yeah. Then you can become very comfortable in this material world. Your position at work, you're doing very well. You're making enough money to pay your bills and then have some left over. You're able to drive a late model car, and it works all the time instead of like some of mine working part of the time. Actually, all cars work part of the time, don't they? Even the more expensive brands that are brand new, sometimes they have a part that fails. And if it's a little part in the computer of the car, then that affects the whole car, doesn't it? So similarly, in our lives, if some part of our lives is failing, something is failing, then that causes a disturbance in our life. So we prefer the mode of goodness because that's when everything is honky-dory and everything is very pleasant And so, you know, when we come home from a satisfying day at the office, and you've gotten along with all of your fellow employees, and you're making money for the company, and everything seems to be going good in the marketplace for your company, and all of the needs for IT people have not been switched over to AI people. Does that sound familiar? Yeah, that's a big problem, isn't it, right now? Yeah. Then, in other words, if everything is going well, then that's like mode of goodness. But how do we make that transition from the mode of goodness to the mode of pure goodness?
By practicing devotional service?
Practicing devotional service. In other words, bringing the Supreme Lord, who controls the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance, to bring him into the picture. And also, he's known as Rishikesh. What does that mean?
Controlling the senses.
Master of the senses, yes, controller of the senses. So then even if you're attracted to the mode of goodness, you can by looking around you and examining the lives of other people, you know that mode of goodness is going to fail at some point in time. So you're going to be introduced then to the mode of passion, and maybe even the mode of darkness or the mode of ignorance. How do you protect yourself from that? By accepting the Supreme Personality of Godhead. First of all, to accept that he exists, which many people in the society that we're in now, including my automobile mechanic, he doesn't think that there's anything after this lifetime. There is no God. And when this body is finished, your life is finished. That's what he thinks. But we are fortunate enough to come into contact with those persons who can enlighten us and let us know that not only are we not this body, but the whole thing is being controlled by a Supreme Personality. And so the atheists are saying, not possible. Not possible. Because you tell me, Rupa Nugadas, that there are living entities all around, that even in this room, there are invisible living entities in the bodies of bacteria and tiny, tiny insects, which are probably invisible to us. And you're telling me that this so-called Supreme Person is in control of everything, that not a blade of grass moves in all the three worlds without the sanction of the Supreme Lord? Is that what you're telling me? I don't believe it. It's not possible. I mean, I can control a lot of things with my brain, and if I'm enhanced with a computer, I can control many more things. But all the living entities on this planet, and there are innumerable planets in this universe, and there are innumerable planets or universes within the material manifestation, and you're telling me that there is someone who controls every single aspect of every single personality in all of those universes. Nah, don't believe it. I can't do it. Even a person that's a lot smarter than I am could not do it. So they say that there's no controller. And that's really easy to fall into, isn't it? Especially if you happen to have had some religious or spiritual instruction in the past. You don't have an example, perhaps, of someone who is a practitioner, a really valid practitioner of all of those religious and spiritual ideas. Really hard to find someone who exemplifies, well, let's just say, even Christianity, hard to find anybody who exemplifies the personality of Jesus, isn't it? To do what he did, to have the renunciation that he had, to show the love for individuals who are considered to be the lowest of society as he did. What speak of Lord Jesus? What about Srila Prabhupada? Here we have a personality that has shown love to people that he really had no business showing love to. The hippies and beatniks and the societal dropouts. But who did he take as his early disciples? People from the lowest backgrounds. And even if they came from wealthy parents, we could say that they were not the lowest in society. They were, they were fortunate kids to have wealthy parents or persons who had some prestige in our society. And yet Prabhupada accepted them also. And I'm thinking right now about a certain person who comes here to this community occasionally, who came from wealthy parents. Giriraj Maharaj, His Holiness Srila Giriraj Swami Maharaj, and here's a person. He graduated from a prestigious Ivy League school in Boston known as Brandeis. Did you know? Yeah, and he's written quite a few books. But even he, although he had considerable wealth at his disposal by being born in the family that he was born into, when his father came and made him a financial offer to leave the Krishna consciousness movement and come back and be with the family and maybe, I don't know, take up the business that he was his father, or take up some other business to become successful, he said no. He was satisfied by performing the austerities that Prabhupada had his disciples to perform. He was even in a situation in which he was tempted by a prostitute. Do you know about that? He was traveling in a car, remember? And so at this time, this prostitute made an advancement toward him. But he's told in a lecture here in Dallas how he had to make that decision to not fall prey to this because he wanted to serve his spiritual master. And he knew that if he became too much attracted to one of the opposite sex, then that would be finished. His spiritual life would be at least put on hold for some time. And so that's an example, that's the kind of example that we need in this society, because we can see that King Prachini Barhishat is having difficulties, and Narada Muni is his spiritual master, trying to rescue him and extricate him from this bondage that he's in. And so what do we then have to say about the persons who come into this universe and represent the Supreme Lord and give us knowledge that is going to keep us from having to take continued birth and experience death in this material world? What can we say about those persons who come and give us that knowledge and show us by their example how it's done? What do we owe them? Oh. There is no way that we can repay them. But we can try. We can do our little bit, even though we can't do perhaps the kinds of things that Giriraj Swami did or Tamal Krishna Goswami did. We cannot open temples, maybe, or we cannot oversee a whole region of a country as these men and women did. Jamuna Dasi. Such powerful, powerful beings that came and joined Srila Prabhupada, and then they were further empowered by Srila Prabhupada to do things that they could not imagine being able to do in this lifetime. All right. Ishwari Kumari, would you please read on in this?
Yes.
Did you get into the third paragraph?
Yes, yes.
All right.
Sometimes we see that when a person is on the platform of material goodness, he is attracted more and or less by the cultivation of knowledge. This is, of course, a better position, for knowledge gives one the preference to accept devotional service. Unless one comes to the platform of knowledge, the Brahma Bhuta stage, one cannot advance in devotional service. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita 18.54, Brahma Bhuta prasannatma na shochati na kankshati samas sarveshu bhuteshu mad bhaktim labhate param. One who is...
Okay, now I want to stop you there and ask, I want to hear from Gokulananda Prabhu. I want you to read the last page of this purport, please. Now, you got a soft voice, so you got to hold that mic up there close. Otherwise, I'm sitting at home listening to the class, and I'm not going to hear everything you say.
One who is thus transcendently situated at once realizes the Supreme Brahman and becomes fully joyful. He never laments nor desires to have anything. He is equally disposed to every living entity. In that state, he attains pure devotional service unto me.
So the mode of goodness can elevate us to that position. Na shokchati na kankshati. All right, read on. Oh, you're going to let someone else read. Very good. I haven't heard from that person today. Read, please.
The platform of knowledge is advantageous.
Good.
Because it is a means by which one may come to the stage of devotional service.
Good.
However, if one takes to devotional service directly, knowledge is revealed without separate endeavor. This is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.7.
All right, now pass the mic back over to your mom, and let's let her read that that verse. Srimad Bhagavatam.
Vasudeve Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojitaha Janayatyashu Vairagyam Jnanam Cha Yadahaitukam.
Purport. Read the last paragraph there, please.
Devotional service automatically reveals actual knowledge of our material existence. One who is sufficiently intelligent immediately attains the stage of renunciation of so-called society, family, and love, as well as other things. As long as we are attached to society, family, and love of the material world, there is no question of knowledge, nor is there a question of devotional service. By directly taking to devotional service, however, one becomes filled with knowledge and renunciation. In this way, one's life becomes successful.
And thus in the Bhaktivedanta Purports of the fourth canto, 25th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Descriptions of the Characteristics of King Puranjana. So if we're not to become attached to family, then what is our duty as a family person? Now, we are attached to our family members. We are. So we have to start from that point and find out how do we dovetail this family life into the devotional service of the Supreme Lord. And that means then that we have to accept all these persons in our family as our dependents. And you don't take advantage of your dependents for your own sense gratification. That means you've got to do whatever is best for your dependent. And whatever is best doesn't mean making that person comfortable materially or helping him or her to enjoy in a material way. To do that which is best means to give them the knowledge and the example that they need to live by to make their lives perfect. I'm finished. Do we have, we have time for maybe one or two comments or questions. Does anyone have anything? Gokulananda Prabhu. And then Mother Prabhupada Priya.
Thank you, Prabhu. It was a wonderful class. Speaking about the attachment to the family, it is said the attachment to the family members is natural until and unless it obstructs your devotional service, which was exhibited by Arjuna. Arjuna was attached naturally to his son when he lost Abhimanyu. He lamented like any other person and he cried, but then it did not obstruct his service to Krishna. That's my
Thank you,
comment.
Mother Prabhupada Priya.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I just wanted to make a comment here for clarification in relation to a point that Prabhupada makes in this purport, where he says, if one associates with a woman or with a person too much addicted to a woman, his path of bondage becomes clear. On the whole, spiritual advancement, for spiritual advancement, one must give up the company of women. So it makes it seem like women are really bad news. So I just wanted to clarify that there's one place where Srila Prabhupada says that when he's talking about women, so for men, woman means woman. For women, woman means men. So this is basically referring to, the opposite sex or that person who you may see as a sex object in this world. So the idea is that when we're addicted to sense objects for personal gratification, of which sex life is the major stumbling block, then that's a cause of bondage and it obstructs our spiritual advancement. So it's not about women, it's about attachment to sensual enjoyment.
Good. Thank you for that clarification. I've heard it said also that money is the root of all evil. Have you heard that saying? Money is the root of all evil. And it should be stated a little differently. The lust for money is the root of all evil. So we can say that the lust for sense gratification from another person then is the source of it's the beginning or the continuation of distress in our lives. So any action that we perform which is not directed toward the service of the Supreme Lord is going to produce a result that you're going to regret. And the more intense the material pleasure that you have, whether it be through sex or through intoxication or through gambling or some other means, the more intense the pleasure is, the more intense will be the reactions that come from that. And so we look around in our society and we feel really sorry that some people are having to suffer as they are due to any number of things. Someone attacking your country, or a tsunami, or a volcano, or a hurricane, or a tornado. These are all they seem to be just the random acts of nature, but they're hardly that. Nothing and nobody can make you suffer except that you are due that reaction. Do you believe it? Nothing, nobody. So even when somebody is apparently the cause of your suffering, a Hitler or a Mussolini or a Stalin or a United States president for that matter, those persons may be performing deeds that give them pleasure, but they cause a certain portion of the population to suffer. So we say then that person is responsible for my suffering. Like a lot of people in our society say, it is our government, our senators and representatives, they're responsible for our suffering. I'm not the cause of it. I'm just an innocent bystander. Not so. So we have to really be careful, do we not, about putting the blame on anybody else, or saying that it's a woman that is the cause of my problems. No. It's a man. He doesn't go out and do what he's supposed to. He doesn't take care of his family. That's not really the cause of our individual problems. Those problems come from one source only, and that is our past activities. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We offer our respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord who, just like desire trees, who fulfill the desires of everyone and who are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Kalatanji Dhamma Ki Jai. Gaura Premananda. If you get a chance today, chant the holy names.